Welcome, I am Rails Eve and your host for Keep Traveling, Your African Vacation, the only podcast which brings you insightful information in the African tourism industry by real tourism professionals. I have the pleasure of introducing Keshandren Pillay, who is the Group Sales Manager for Zulu Nyala. Keshandren, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Rail. Thank you for having me on here.
No, it's a pleasure. Tell me a little bit about Zulu Nyala. Where are you guys situated geographically?
Okay, so we are in northern Kwazulu Natal in an area called Shishluwe, and we are not inside the Shishluwe Imfolozi Park. We are about 20 minutes away, so more on the north of it, and we have two properties in that location.
Okay, and for people that wanted to get to your lodges, and we'll come back to the two different lodges that we're talking about, but for international guests that wanted to get to your lodges, what would be the best and most convenient, practical way to get there?
Ideally, people would fly into King Shaka Airport, and then from King Shaka, it's a 3-hour drive to us. That would be the most convenient way. People are traveling from Johannesburg. You can come around past Mpumalanga. It does take you approximately 7 hours in terms of driving, but I've done the calculation, the math. In terms of that, if flying to KwaZulu-Natal from Johannesburg is an hour flight, driving time is 3 hours, and then obviously waiting at the airports and traveling from your home to the airports, it roughly works out to the same thing. So it's nice to drive around coming down that way past Pongola, Jozini. Those areas are quite nice. So if you want to spend the time on the road, cool. It's not too bad. You can travel on the N2 coming around the other side, or you could do the short flight from Durban, which is also quite nice.
And tell me, would you organize transfers for guests that are coming to stay with you? Do you organize that kind of thing?
We definitely do. So we have vehicles that go pretty much every day to the airport collecting people. We do have some set times in terms of our collections at the airport and drop-offs at the airport just because of the distance. Unfortunately, our vehicles won't make it to pick up everyone if they're 1 hour apart. So we do schedule certain times, but yes, we can definitely arrange it. We have our own vehicles and we have our own in-house employed drivers for that.
Okay. Now, Keshandren, tell me about the actual two properties, the difference between the two of them and the proximity to one another.
100%. Let's start with the Zulu Nyala Game Lodge, which is our flagship property. That property is based inside its own private game reserve. And in terms of accommodations, it has 40 accommodation rooms, facilities on site, full restaurant, bar services, tennis court, pool, and then we have a spa and a gym as well on site. There are some conference facilities for our local corporate people that are interested in that type of thing. That property has been around for about 45 years or so, and we constantly looking at doing renovations on the property and improvements. We try to keep that property as our first choice. Then our second property is located approximately 5 kilometers away from the Zulu Nyala Game Lodge. It is called Zulu Nyala Heritage Safari Lodge, and from gate to gate it's 5 kilometers, and it lies outside the private game reserve that we own. The heritage property is quite large in terms of size compared to the game lodge. It has approximately 140 accommodation rooms. It's spread out throughout the property. There are 4 different types of accommodation styles. The first mainly being your classic rooms, which is your entry-level rooms. That makes up about 80 odd rooms on the property. Then in the center of the property, we have something called the luxury tents. Our luxury tents is exactly that. It is glamping. So it is a tent roof with solid walls, full door, inside bathroom, aircon. So it is glamping. It's for the person that wants to be in the tent feel and wants to have that wind blow through the tent, but obviously doesn't want to be completely exposed to the elements. So that lies in the center of the property. And then our heritage suites is our premium accommodation room, and that makes up about 56 rooms there. Those are the largest room that we offer. They are approximately 80 to 100 square meters in size per room. The heritage property in terms of facilities has 2 pool areas, 2 different dining areas on site. It has a spa, a gym, a massive library/lounge area. The one thing that we don't offer on our property is TVs in the rooms. At Zulu Nyala, we don't believe that you come to stay in the wilderness and sit in your room and watch TV. So that is not promoted, but we do have a lounge with a big, massive TV. So the guys that want to come looking to watch sports and don't want to miss a game. And then the one main attraction on our property is that we have a place called the Zulu Nyala Cultural Village. The cultural village is based at the reception area. This tour generally runs for about an hour. It's all about the Zulu culture, how they lived, how they worked back in the day, the things that they made, and obviously the traditional aspect of that, the dancing, the drumming, the singing. So that's a tour that people can book on site with us.
Okay, that sounds all very interesting. As far as being in the wild is concerned, visitors that come to Zulu Nyala, what game can they expect to see?
So on our property, they can see 4 of the big 5. We don't have lions. Just in terms of size of land, from that perspective, we're not allowed to have lions. But you can see pretty much everything else. The only thing that's a little bit elusive is the leopard. Unfortunately, nobody can own a leopard because they just hop fence to fence. I've worked for the company for about 12 years now. To be honest, I've never seen a leopard on the property. Every time I decide not to go on a game drive, there's a leopard sighting. Maybe it just doesn't like me, who knows?
Just be careful. Maybe he'll like you one day very much and you might become a meal.
Yeah.
Keshandren, tell me, as far as your clientele is concerned, what is the mixture of your clientele currently visiting?
So predominantly we have clients from the US. That would form majority of the clients. Then we've got a lot of group business that we deal with. So the French market, the German market, some Canadian as well. And then the rest would be South Africans. More South Africans conferencing and weddings. We don't do a lot of South African bookings in terms of leisure. To be honest, it's just not something that Zulu Nyala has done in the past. So in terms of exposure, we don't have a big footprint there. We do offer services to the South African market, and should we get South African leisure clients, we will obviously take them. But it's not our core focus.
Tell me a little bit about your staff complement and any sort of upliftment programs that you're doing within your properties together with the local communities.
So all of the employees at Zulu Nyala, I would say majority, I'm not sure on the numbers, but most of them are South Africans. They're all employed from the area. It was one of the things that we did after COVID. There was a big influx of visitors that came when we opened up again and when we started bringing staff back. And we tried to bring back a lot of the staff that went on furlough at that time. We do have a good relationship with community leaders. There is a big kind of respect between us employing locals and also us having direct contact with them. So should there be any concerns or issues or staffing problems, then the leaders come to the GM and they have a conversation about that. In terms of just giving back to the community, we have a program that runs a lot for our USA clients, and the clientele that comes to us from the US are within the charity organization industries. So a lot of those particular clients that come through, they like to come through and donate things for schools, stationery, toys for kids, and a lot of it gets sent to us. And then when they do arrive in the country, then we have our rangers who work very closely with these communities and these underprivileged schools, and they'll take the clients out and they generally go and hand out that stuff and give it out to the community. It's something that the clients themselves want to do, and in part we then assist with that.
A big thing on everybody's lips at the moment is sustainability, recycling. Obviously, in South Africa, there are issues with power consumption and what you can get out of the national grid. Tell me a little bit more on those lines of what you're doing.
Everybody knows in South Africa we have Eskom issues, right? That's the biggest thing. And then Eskom issues have forced properties like us to be able to provide a backup system for their clients. To be honest, the first backup system that was available to everybody was a big generator that used diesel and obviously gave very bad emissions. We do have a diesel generator on property. It's specifically there because it was our original backup. In the last 4 years, have started improving the property and trying to go solar. We have our heritage property. It's at least at about 50% now on solar, and that provides power for the rooms, power for the restaurant, power for the reception areas, power for some of the offices. Currently, we're looking at moving everything over to solar, and the more we move over to solar, the less we have to use our generator. Eventually, we can keep it as your third redundancy and then rely on the solar going forward. In terms of water and sustainability for water, a lot of our water is filtered and pumped. It's a borehole water that we then move into a reservoir from a neighboring property. It's all controlled and it's all measured and it's all filtered before it goes out into the property. So those are just the basic sustainability things that we do in terms of our properties. In terms of our reserve, it's a little bit more intense in terms of keeping that environment stable. We have professional reserve managers who go into the reserve, make sure that the habitat is correct, and make sure that our conservation and in terms of what we do in terms of the conservation is there. And in terms of protection, we have people in place that actually do that specific thing.
Okay. Keshandren, you've mentioned that you've been with the group Zulu Nyala for 12 years now. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you've gotten into the tourism industry and how you are the group sales manager for Zulu Nyala today.
My story is short-lived in terms of hospitality. I came to the industry straight out of a corporate environment. I used to work for corporate sales. I've been in sales my entire life, and this position at Zulu Nyala came up. So I said, let's go for the interview. I got the job. I then fell in the deep end, not knowing a single thing about this industry, not the people, not how it works. And I had somebody who actually was my manager at that time. He took me under his wing and taught me the ropes and showed me how things work. And yeah, I've learned everything from scratch in the last 12 years. And yeah, I'm still with the company. I love the industry and I love the people as well.
So tell me, what's your occupancy rate throughout the year? What are you sitting at the moment?
So it's a bit up and down with us. We get busy periods, I would say beginning of Feb through to about end of May. June, July, it's always dead months for us. Then we pick up again in August and we go until, I would say, mid-end November. And then December gets quiet, January gets quiet. On average, we're probably roughly running at about, let's say the heritage property, it's probably about 60% occupancy roughly throughout the year. With our game lodge, unfortunately, it's not really measurable at the moment. There's a specific reason for that. I'll explain it. Currently, with us having a very large property, which is 3 times the size of the other property, it makes the game lodge not viable to run continuously throughout the year. So in terms of the ownership, they've decided to rather have the game lodge shut down for 6 months of the year and open for 6 months of the year. March to about the end of May, the game lodge will be open. And then from August until the end of October, the game lodge will be open again. That's why it's a little bit difficult to measure that. And the only reason we do it is because you can't have a property that's open during quiet time and have 10% occupancy and have a full staff complement. It doesn't make sense. Because the heritage is so much bigger, we just move the clients to the heritage, and it does have similar rooms as well as the bigger suites. So even if clients are paying for the upgrade, they can then move to the other property. Since COVID, we've went into this approach and it's been working. The ideal situation is to have both the properties at full capacity all the time.
Listen, I wish you well for the rest of 2025, you and Zulu Nyala. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate your time and your energy and explaining to us about your properties.
Thank you so much for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity.